We're just waiting. Oh, now we're connected to audio. Welcome, ladies. We're so glad that you're here today. Lydia is going to teach us a little bit about working in wellness from theory to practice. So, Lydia, it's all yours.
Thank you, Desiree. I appreciate you and welcome everyone. Heather, Erin, Anna, it's all good to have you. It's my pleasure to be able to bring us together today to discuss a little bit more about wellness theory and how we can actually practically apply it in our workplaces. So, our last session we looked at the theories, and we're going to do a quick refresh on those today. But more so, I want the conversation to be interactive and allow us some opportunities to experience or to reflect through using those theories in our own workplace. So, without further ado, and sorry if you can hear my cat causing chaos in the background. She knows exactly when. Okay. Oops. And I'm just going to share my screen here and get us going. And let me know if you can all see that. Look good?
That's good.
Perfect. So yeah, welcome everyone to Working in Wellness. And so just a quick recap, this information comes from our breakout sessions that we led at Confluence. So if you weren't able to be there with us in person, we wanted to make sure that our wellness champions got access to this information. And Confluence this year's theme was building trust in a changing world through leadership, communication, and technology. And so in this pathways, we look at how we can utilize wellness strategies to build trust. And we explore that connection between building trust and well-being in the workplace, which we'll find are not separate things, but actually uh, inherent to one another. And so, just to refresh, we'll look at some of those theories and core competencies, but mostly I want to share our workplace scenarios, whether real or imagined, that allow us to reflect on that combination of trust, autonomy, and well-being. So I wanted to start us off here today with the 6 dimensions of wellness. And I'm curious, to those who are here, you can share in chat or you can unmute, whichever you'd prefer. Um, who here is familiar with this model or a model like it? It doesn't necessarily have to be this 6 per se. Sometimes you'll see 8 dimensions of wellness, sometimes you'll see 12, but they all kind of have the same core concept behind them, which is that well-being isn't one-dimensional, and that in order to really holistically approach someone's well-being, we need to account for all these dimensions. And I'm curious, does anybody have any experience working within these before? Erin says, I've seen this before and I appreciate the concept. Excellent. Awesome. So we're familiar with the concept driving this visual aid. And here's a breakdown of those areas, the 6 dimensions, and the focus that each has. So intellectually, we're looking at lifelong learning, creativity, oops, problem solving and mental stimulation. For emotional, we're looking at self-awareness, resilience, and healthy expression of feelings, right? And so that might be that emotional intelligence component where we're aware of the emotions that we're feeling, we're aware of the emotions that our colleagues are experiencing, being able to pick up where people are at emotionally to assess the situation. The spiritual dimension, I think, often gets neglected, and it uh, roots us to purpose, values, and connection to meaning or something greater than oneself. And so this is anything that taps on our purpose that drives us and allows us to make meaning out of our lived experiences. Then, of course, the physical realm, which promotes well-being through health resources, through rest, movement, and other health resources that support the physical body. That's what we see most wellness programming targeting is the physical dimension. And then we have social, which is nurturing inclusive and supportive relationships that celebrate collaboration over competition. And finally, we have occupational. And so occupational wellness allows us to align our role with our individual strengths and purposes. So it can tie into that spiritual well-being of giving us purpose at work. But it also is about skill building and knowledge acquisition. So it can also tap on that intellectual well-being as well. And I just wanted to briefly run through these dimensions because I have some questions for you to reflect on. And I'm curious, which wellness dimensions are most supported at your current workplace? Which ones do you feel like you are being seen and supported? There's an active component in the workplace um, that is functioning well, that is a strength for your workplace. And so, which dimensions do you feel your workplace is supporting already? What are some strengths we see out there? And feel
I feel pretty fortunate because I think my workplace, really does support that, like pretty much all of those. And we strive to basically, you know, be as well as possible, work in wellness here. But I know, I mean, in every place there's room for growth. But I see it that in just overall other work environments are lacking, and this is something that we're looking at and wanting to build up these elements within our county, not just our public health department, but throughout all county employees. So there's definitely room for growth.
Wow. So I'm hearing that your workplace is already supporting the 6 dimensions pretty thoroughly. And now what we're looking at doing is learn figuring out how to model them in such a way that it bleeds into the community that we serve. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
And not to put you on the spot, but just for the sake of really diving into best practices, I'm curious, uh, is there a direct example that you can think of that your workplace does really well in terms of the 6 dimensions of wellness? Like if there was a piece that you could share with your peers that you feel really supports the well-being of your colleagues, that's being woven into the culture in which you work? Is there a particular facet that you think is worth sharing?
Well, I know we recently had done an assessment of our physical workspace, our physical environment and how we can better adapt them. So we ended up getting like sit to stand desks, exercise balls that we can sit on if necessary, for changing that movement in the space, and new I don't know what's a computer mouse, that's more ergonomic. So just kind of those physical, the physical aspect of it, making sure that we fit into our own workspace essentially. So that was one of the things that has been a really good benefit.
Amazing. So I'm just writing a few best practices that I'm hearing that you've taken in your workplace to support your physical well-being, and that's some ergonomic pieces. So sit to stand desks, the ball chairs, and ergonomic mice. And so those are some environmental factors that have been changed in your workplace that now allows us to engage in wellness behaviors, right? Rather than sitting at the desk, we can stand at the desk. Or rather than slouching in a chair, we can have upright posture when we're sitting on the balance ball. Any other reflections that people would like to share? What are some best practices within your workplace that fit within the 6 dimensions of wellness? Anybody else? And if I can't take myself off mute, let's take a look. Participant list. I can ask to unmute. Let me see if that works. And if you're not able to take yourself off mute, that's totally okay. I'm more than comfortable leading a discussion hybrid with chat and spoken dialogue. So whatever mechanism works best for you to communicate today, we're more than happy to meet you where you're at. Your microphone's not working, no problem. Yeah, we can totally, if you just want to share some key takeaways to the questions in chat, you're more than welcome, and I'll read them aloud for people. I'm curious where you might find room to grow. Is there a dimension of well-being in your workplace that maybe we can be more intentional about supporting?
And Lydia, while folks are thinking about that, I'll mention something that I'm grateful for at is we have access to LinkedIn Learning as part of our employee benefits. So that really speaks to that potentially like intellectual wellness, like it's really
Totally.
supported to continue learning. And it's really, anything you want to go learn more about, whether it's IT or some specific leadership skill or, really kind of sky's the limit with that.
That's awesome. So what I'm hearing is your employer provides professional development opportunities through LinkedIn Learning that help you feel intellectually fed and adds to your occupational well-being, it sounds like. Getting those two areas. And we have a comment in chat that says, we have a Spark policy that our department can take a 15-minute walk, we have purchased weights, balls, stand-up desks, etc. So it sounds like that area of physical well-being is really being nurtured through the Spark policy, which is awesome to have that in that infused policy to help us take those opportunities. So the policy is making it easier for us to engage in the behavior. And then in addition to that policy shaping the environment, we also have those physical environment pieces, right? The weights, the stand-up desks, the things, the items in our workplace that make the choice easier to engage in. So a few key things to pick up from those examples that we shared.
I would say that, you know, the emotional part is probably the one that maybe needs the most work. Not that we don't support it, but it's that it's like, what do we do that is an actionable step that is showing that we support it? You know, what are things that we can do in the workplace that build on that piece essentially. So that's probably one of our struggles for us.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing a place, an opportunity for growth. I know that that can be hard to identify and maybe vulnerable to share. So I do appreciate that piece. And I'm curious, what are some ways can anyone think of um, one idea for activating on emotional well-being? And if we can take a step back here, we can look at that emotional well-being for some examples. Like, what are ways we can support that psychological safety of emotional well-being in our workplace? Some examples are modeling emotional honesty and empathy, creating space for vulnerability and active listening. All of those are trust building strategies that allow people to feel supported. And just in general, it's nourishing pieces that build self awareness, resilience, and a healthy expression of feelings. And so I can actually think of one example that we've been utilizing around the office and around the state that allows people to voice how they're arriving to a meeting or a gathering. Oops. If I make this larger here just to look at you guys for a moment, does it hide the presentation for you or do you still see it full screen?
We still see it full screen.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that. So, one thing that we've been using to enhance emotional well-being and resilience in the workplace is Andy Lau's one-word check-in, which gives everybody in the meeting an opportunity to reflect on how they feel in that moment and then share one word about how they're arriving so that the group can know where we're at and we can know where the group is at. And when we engage in this exercise authentically, when we really share how we're arriving and allow ourselves to be met in that way, it can help the whole group understand where everybody's at so we can gauge where the group nervous system is. And based on that information, it may change the way in which the meeting is facilitated. Right? If Desiree, Anna, and myself all meet for a working meeting and we practice the arrival activity, and maybe Desiree shares that she is feeling a lower capacity than normal, and maybe Anna is really energized, and maybe I'm kind of middle of the road, right? We could then internalize that emotional intelligence to know, okay, well, maybe I can help support Desiree in places where she's feeling low capacity. and maybe Anna's energized perspective can help drive the meeting so that there isn't a toll on any one person, and instead the work is balanced. And so I just wanted to share that example of the one-word check-in and how that might enhance emotional intelligence in the workplace. That was a great great example of a place that can use some growth and intention. Okay, now trying to get back to, there we go. So skipping ahead here, just the key takeaway about the 6 dimensions that we're exploring is it's a holistic framework that allows us to build trust, because trust grows where whole person wellness is supported. It helps people feel seen, safe, supported, and valued across all those dimensions. And when all dimensions are at least acknowledged, maybe not actively worked on, but at least acknowledged, it becomes part of a culture to care for ourselves and our colleagues rather than just a concept. So moving on, we talked about the National Wellness Institute's core competencies for wellness promotion in our workplace. And I want to briefly touch on these before moving into the theory, and reflect on which of these competencies we feel we're particularly strong in. And so a wellness practitioner would authentically engage with wellness content and would also practice self-awareness, right? So it's a kind of a practice what you preach competency. Know where you are at in your own wellness journey and act from that place with authenticity. Addressing the whole person and system approaches is what we were exploring with the 6 dimensions of wellness. Inclusive and responsive practices, where we're making sure that all backgrounds, all cultures, all perspectives are included within the realm of that well-being work, and that we're responsible in our wellness programming to account for these different perspectives and different lived experiences. Then there's communication and connection, which without communication, there is no well-being programming at work, right? We need to be able to communicate the wellness initiatives, and we need to be able to build connection and rapport with our colleagues, or that wellness programming won't feel authentic. And then, of course, there's the legal and ethical principles of just respecting people's autonomy, respecting the policies of the workplace, and confidentiality, right? As wellness champions, people might confide in us about what they would like to see more of in the workplace, or maybe what they are struggling with from a well-being perspective. And so knowing that if people confide in us as the wellness practitioner of the workplace, to maintain that confidentiality piece. And so just a quick refresh on that, but I'm curious, what do you notice about these competencies? Which ones do you feel particularly strong in? And which one might you be curious to explore more of?
I think the legal and ethical principles are always challenging, just knowing what those are in particular, following all that and all the changes that come with it. And I think that's a part that would definitely and it could improve on our end. So
Yeah, so that one is an area that you're curious about, is what I'm hearing.
yeah, definitely.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm trying to upload a couple of resources for us into chat.
I already have them, Lydia. There.
Oh, you're the best. Thank you so much, Desiree. I appreciate you. And so we have a couple of resources to move us forward. The Wellness Strategy Starter Kit, which explains all the theories that we are exploring in these two series. And then there should be the PowerPoint and a worksheet. So we have the reference guide and the strategy starter kit. I've included these so that they're in the PowerPoint for your reference, but this is more just for your reference after the presentation. And we're halfway through the session, and we talked about the one-word check-in as a way to practice emotional awareness and intelligence, and also nervous system regulation in the workplace. So I'm curious if people would like to take this moment to practice a skill that we can utilize in our workplaces called the one-word check-in. And this could be something that you use when you're meeting one-on-one with a colleague or a client. It could be an icebreaker for a group that is new to meeting, or it could be a piece of the culture that every staff meeting is started with some kind of reflective exercise like this. But who would like to give it a try? Who would be interested in practicing that with us all together?
I guess if it's one word, so I calm. Feel pretty calm right now. So
Awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you for hopping in there. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate how you can lead the exercise. And it does start with a little bit of a somatic check-in. And so this is that emotional intelligence or self-awareness piece where we're actually building in an opportunity for people to reflect on how they're feeling and how they're showing up in a healthy way. And so if you guys are comfortable and you'd like to practice, I invite you to come to a comfortable place wherever you are, just briefly checking in with your body, noticing where you are on your chair or how you are standing at your desk. Maybe shifting the center of gravity, right and left, back and forth, coming to a nice centered and balanced place in the middle. And if it feels good for you, perhaps closing the eyes or allowing the gaze to soften. Maybe looking down away from the screen and giving the eyes a chance to rest. And then just noticing, knowing that there's no need to change or alter, and there's certainly no need to judge. So trying not to attach a positive or negative value to what we're observing in ourselves, but just accepting ourselves where we're at. Just noticing what comes up when we ask ourselves, how am I feeling in this moment? What is my body telling me? Perhaps noticing where we are being met or supported. So, whether that be through the floor and our feet, or the chair and our seat, just noticing those contact points. Maybe asking ourselves, do we feel met by what's supporting us? Do we feel like we're sinking into the chair or into the floor? Or maybe we have the sensation of floating above the floor or the chair. Just noticing where we're at. Taking a deep breath in through the nose and letting out a sigh. And then really asking ourselves, how am I arriving to this moment? What is one word that describes how I feel right now? And when you have that word, gently blinking open the eyes, noticing when we come back into the room, maybe looking over your one shoulder, looking center, looking over the other shoulder. And then coming back into the Zoom call, noticing the things on the screen, maybe seeing our colleagues' faces. And now we begin. And so we go around and we each share our one word. And if you would like, you can also add a hand movement and kind of an inflection to the word to help portray how you're feeling in your nervous system. So, today I feel anticipation. And so now to tap on that mammalian um, reflecting mirror neurons, if it feels good for you, you can mirror my word and my feeling back to me. And this helps with that psychological safety of feeling validated and seen by our peers, and it helps our peers tap into uh, that somatic piece to how we're feeling. So everybody in the group might say, anticipation. Yeah. Desiree, would you like to share your one word?
I am feeling drowsy.
Yeah. Yeah. So drowsy. Thank you, Desiree. How about you, Anna?
I am feeling heavy.
Ooh, heavy. Yeah. So maybe feeling more like sinking into the chair. Yeah, totally. And then Erin and Heather, if you would like to share your one word, you're more than welcome to. If you'd like to share in chat, you can. Just curious, how are you arriving to this wellness break? Erin says, still calm. Love it. Thank you. And so this is just one tool that I hope to model again and again as one thing that you can put in your pocket to lead sessions in your workplace and also model what it looks like to incorporate practices and behaviors that support self-awareness and emotional intelligence. Thank you for participating, everyone. I appreciate you trying something new. And Heather's frustrated. Yeah, understandable. frustration, right? Maybe for the technology not working, maybe for other pieces. And so just kind of a reflection for me as the facilitator who led the session. Now I know that people are feeling tired and heavy and frustrated. And even though I am anticipating, right, I can take in that information and hold space for the heaviness, the frustration, and know that, hey, these feelings are valid, and how can I help support you in how you're arriving now? And it also gives me information, right, as to how to best proceed as a facilitator. So just another way to see how these wellness strategies look when they're in practice. So last week we talked about 3 theoretical foundations: the stages of change, the social cognitive theory, and the self-determination theory. And these theories help us understand how to meet people where they're at and how to give them autonomy and the environmental factors that support them in making behavioral changes at work that support their well-being, right? The trans-theoretical model, or the stages of change, just as a refresh, tells us that we need to meet people where they're at. If somebody's really pre-contemplative about changing, we're not going to push them to run the work marathon with us, right? If they're really pre-contemplative about taking a 15-minute walking break with us, we're not going to push them to do that until they show interest in wanting to do those things, right? Social cognitive theory says that the environment influences our behaviors, and our behaviors inform our belief about ourselves and our ability to change. And then self-determination theory gives people the autonomy to make the changes that best serve them, right? So that's that free will piece of trusting people. Hey, what is it that you need to be well at work? And giving them the space, freedom, acceptance to work on those things rather than what we think they need. And so just a couple of refreshes on those theories, because I would like to Oop, sorry, my computer's having a moment. Seems to be frozen. Wanted to transition to our worksheets with the time that we have left. Let's see, I might have to stop sharing real quick. So that you guys can understand how to use these worksheets outside of our sessions together. And just know that with any of these theories and practical applications in our workplaces, I'm here to support you guys. You're more than welcome to set up one-on-one appointments with me to work through the resource guides and come up with practical strategies for your workplaces. And this is just a starting point for us, right? That I'm always a resource in your back pocket, and you're more than welcome to tap on me whenever you may need that support. So let me pull up our worksheets real quick. Sorry, for some reason my computer also agrees it's a Monday. Okay. So, sharing the document here. And I want to start with the reference guide. Oop, and zoom. There we go. So I have here the main theories and resources that have been guiding these two sessions. So we have the 6 dimensions of wellness with a outline to areas that we can focus on to enhance those 6 dimensions. We have the promotional competency domains and a brief definition as to how those competencies are enacted. We have the behavior change theories and why they matter. So we have the trans theoretical model, which tells us to match the intervention to the readiness for change that we see in our workplace. We have the self-determination theory, which is motivation is built on autonomy, belonging, and competence, right? So people have to feel motivation to do something. They have to want to do it because it's important to them. And they have to feel as though they have the skills, knowledge, and resources needed to be successful in that change. Otherwise, they won't feel like they have the self-efficacy to make the change. And then the social cognitive theory, which behavior is shaped by belief and environment, right? So people have to believe in their ability, but the environment also has to support the behavior. And we have some whole person reflection questions, which I think that would be valuable as a wellness champion to really reflect on these pieces, to engage with that core competency of self-awareness and authenticity. So some of those questions that we can dive into is, where am I in the change process when it comes to prioritizing my wellness? And where is my organization? We also have, what small steps have helped me move forward in the past, and what has made change hard to sustain? So we might notice that in the past, we were successful in a specific workplace wellness change. And perhaps something about that behavior fell by the wayside. And so it's important to reflect on what made it hard to sustain the change, even when we were successful at initiating the change originally. This, as an example, might be a work walking group, right? Let's say every day after lunch, people were meeting for a 15-minute walk outside. And then towards the fall, we noticed people stopped doing it. We might ask what made the change hard to sustain. And maybe it's an environmental piece that's outside of our control, like the weather, right? The weather just got bad and there's not really a place to walk inside. Finally, we have, whose actions do I model or admire when I think about healthy leadership, communication, or trust? And how do I practice authenticity and self-awareness in emotionally charged situations? So those are some whole person reflection questions that I would love for our wellness champions to really consider their role in the workplace, and also inspire us as to where we might be ready to move forward. Do any of those questions resonate with people in chat? And would they like to share anything that they noticed about what came up for them with those reflection questions? And while people are typing those responses, I just want to look at this wellness strategy starter kit that I'm sending you guys off with, and would love to continue to work with you on these strategies. And this is the Wellness Culture Builder template. And so, looking at the well being culture in our workplace, what are areas that already support, or what are we doing that already support these areas, the 6 dimensions of well being? And so, for us, we might say what we're already doing for emotional wellness is the one word check in, right? That's one area that we are giving people voice in stating how they feel, and validation and accepting them as they are and how they're arriving. But it also implores us to think of new ideas to explore that enhance emotional wellness. And we can do this for each of the dimensions to identify strengths that we want to continue to nourish in our workplace, but also new opportunities to continue to grow, because there's always um, ways that we can enhance what's already being done. And you never know what innovations might really click and make a difference in your workplaces. And then, just as a quick reference guide for the worksheet, I did include the 6 dimensions and some of their factors to help inspire um, new ideas. So, with our last 10 minutes, I'd love to explore. I'm going to actually stop sharing if that's okay, so that we can come together. And I see I have some comments here. Anna says, I find there is often a disconnect between individual readiness and institutional readiness. That's a great point, right? That sometimes those stages of change, the people that work within the institution might be at a different stage of readiness to adopt or um, adapt to new policies, behaviors, but there might be institutional policies in place that prevent people from having that environmental support, like in the theory about environments and belief. So that's kind of an overlap there between those two theories. Thank you for bringing that up, Anna. Heather says there is a group of us that work out Monday and Wednesday at 5:15 p.m. and Tuesday and Thursday at noon. In the last 2 years, we have noticed that in May through September, the group drops off until about October. Right. And so it's kind of interesting how some of those environmental factors will dictate behaviors, and how that's okay, right? It's probably right from what it sounds like is in the summer, people are more active And maybe that need for the group workout sessions isn't as strong during those times of the year as they are when things are um, let's say, uh, not like not as nice outside, right? So we're not recreating as much. Anna said, I would love an accountability group like this. How awesome. That is really cool that you guys get to do that for each other, Heather, and I appreciate you sharing that. But yeah, with any time left, are there any new strategies that you heard of today? Maybe a best practice that someone else in the group shared, or maybe just some new concept that you got inspired by that you'd like to take away and see implemented in your workplace.
At a previous employer, we were gifted 3 hours per week to work out. So, or to go to a counseling appointment. So something that was, I'm not going to say self-care because you couldn't do a nail appointment, but if you wanted to go and work out, or if you had a therapy appointment, 3 hours per week, which was really quite nice. But we noticed that a lot of people didn't utilize their 3 hours. So
Interesting. So what I'm hearing is that a previous employer, they had a policy that created the environment where people felt as though they could utilize time within their workday to take care of themselves, whether it be from a physical or mental health perspective. And that even with the policy and the environmental support, there was still some, I don't want to say resistance, but let's say lack of participation. And so it's kind of interesting how even when certain factors are in place, if the individual isn't ready to take on those behaviors, the activation still won't occur. Thank you for sharing that, Desiree. I appreciate it. So I just wanted to share in chat two resources of which you can find me to continue our work on this because um, workplace well-being is an ongoing process that is very intricate and certainly has a lot of moving parts. And so I want to be a resource for you. And we have a wellness champion um, office hours every Wednesday at 3 p.m. And my hope is that people can join and not only tap on me for support, but also share with one another those best practices. So that is the Zoom link for those office hours. And it's just drop in, no need to register. That's Wednesdays at 3 p.m. And then the other piece is if you would like to schedule a one-on-one appointment with me to have some specific coaching around your workplace well-being strategies, you can make an appointment with me on Calendly. And we can dive in to where the interest and curiosity is, and then come up with a strategic plan for moving forward with your workplace. And so I will post those links so that you have access to those. And last but not least, we would love your feedback. If you could please complete our evaluation of this training. I believe Desiree put the link in chat. Don't forget to visit the portal with the link there to complete the evaluation and access your certificate of attendance. So just remember that those are all available in the portal, in addition to the 2 worksheets that were posted in chat today and the PowerPoint slides. So those are all in the portal in one easily accessed area for you. And yeah, just want to open the floor for any questions or comments, but I appreciate you all attending today, and I look forward to seeing you at our next Pathways session.